Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the BSB Podcast One. I am Sean Kaus, and over there, as always, we have my partner in crime, Tony James. How you doing, brother?
All right, BS. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fan-freaking-tabulous, other than the fact that did a little moving today, got a little ambitious, and broke my son's bed, so I had to go buy a new one.
Well, everything has a cost, right? Moving is the worst. Holy smokes. I can't tell you how many things I've broken in a move.
I know, and we're actually talking about getting a new house, so we're actually doing more moving. And I was like, oh, if we move stuff around now, that'll cause us to clean up and get rid of stuff before the move, and not intending to break the bed and needing to buy a new one. So whatever, shit happens, and it is what it is, and collateral damage. But the good thing or the bad thing, depending on how you look at it, is we didn't have any wins or losses last week. So no wins is not a good thing, but no losses is always a good thing. But when we do futures like that, this is going to happen.
Yeah, for sure, Kaus. I mean, the thing with futures, like the good thing, like you said, is you don't necessarily lose your money or win your money right away. You have it tied up over a period of weeks. And so, you have to sit there and be patient. Like if you put a bet on one of those football futures we put on last week, I mean, this is the end of February. You're looking at the end of December, beginning of January before you might collect on that. That's nearly 11 months. So the good news is you're kind of playing with your money and stretching it out a long time. But the bad news is there's no immediate, no immediate gratification there for a correct pick.
Yeah, I agree. And it's fun, with I can't remember off the top of my head. Let me look real quick. I think I picked Seattle to win the NFC West for a divisional winner, and I think you did too.
I did.
And it's all of a sudden this week he comes out and says, "Hey, I don't want to leave Seattle, but if I would, I would go to where was it, Chicago or Vegas, or I forgot the other two teams, but it was 14." And I'm like, maybe I could see if he would have said, like, I want to go. If I were to leave, I would want to go to, I don't know where he grew up, but wherever he grew up or whatever team, maybe he was, Dallas was one of them. Maybe he was a Cowboys fan growing up. Okay, that would make sense. Like, okay, if I'm going to leave, I would like to go to Dallas just because I was a fan. But when you say 4, like, you're insinuating a trade coming up here. Like, I don't think you're going to Deshaun Watson route, but I think you're subtly hinting.
100%. And, that would just, I mean, if we're talking about the Seahawks and Russell Wilson, that guy's been there for a long time. He's led that team to a lot of success, probably the most successful period that franchise has ever had. If you go back the last 6 or 7 years, that's like they're like perennial title contenders, and you want to throw that away. I mean, what kind of leadership is that all about?
And I agree, he has done a lot, but man, he did not look good last year. And you could say, well, the offensive line, I agree, but a lot of that was him. That was not just, he's trying to place a lot of blame for him. He was seeing ghosts a couple of games last year. So, I mean, stuff like this is where it's fun with these futures, because I have Seattle and oh shit, he's saying that now, really? Like, I just bet on Seattle, he might be gone, or relationships are not going to be good even if he's there. So how well are they going to play? What does that look like for my ticket? Or maybe he goes and I know obviously this is not going to happen, but maybe he goes and then all of a sudden Tom Brady comes to Seattle and now my pick looks even better. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it could be a good thing. But that's the fun of futures, is because you constantly have that bet in your head where you're like, oh, I have money on that. That could be good for me. Oh, crap, I have money on that. That's terrible for me.
Well, and, the one thing that sticks in my mind the most is, what if you had bet, I mean, this is a ways back, right? But what if you, in 1999, bet on the Rams to win the division that year, and then you see in the third preseason game, Trent Green gets knocked out for the year, and he's supposed to be your starter, and you're like, who the hell is this Kurt Warner guy? And then what happens? He wins MVP, and the team wins a Super Bowl, right? So, it can go both ways for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, that's almost what I like about futures. Even though you don't get paid or lose right away, it's a bet that keeps your interest for a long time,
For
long
sure.
time.
For sure. It's like fantasy football or fantasy sports, something that you play all season. And like you said, it keeps your attention and keeps you interested for the long term.
Correct. I agree. So we're going to get into more futures today. But before we do that, let's talk about our flavor of the week. I, for one, did not get a chance to go shopping. So I have leftovers from last week. I got my Jameson with my ginger ale. So that's what I'm hammering, and I'm hoping I have enough ginger ale to make it through. Because if not, I might be drinking St. Jameson by the end of the podcast, and it might get a little sloppy, but that's all right. But that's my flavor of the last 2 weeks, and I'm not ashamed of that.
No, that's a solid pick. I mean, if you're going to repeat anything, that's a great one to repeat for sure. That's like the Pittsburgh Penguins of 2016, 2017 right there.
I agree. What do you got? What are you drinking over there?
Well, I needed to do a little restocking today. So after work, I went down to my favorite brewery and I picked up 4 of these magical Foggy Pines hazy pale ales. They're very light in the ABV range, 5.4. It's Citra, Mosaic, and Amarillo hops. But these are very crushable. In fact, I may crush some more of them tomorrow. This is a very good day drinking, sit in the backyard, barbecue, listen to music, watch the kid run around like a jackass type of drink. So there you go.
And your daughter too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was talking about me
running the jackass running. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. All right, and you did give me a terrible text today that hurt me, and I don't even get to drink it that much. You said they stopped making
my punk rock. Yeah, I was over there. I was like, "Hey, where's the punk rock?" And he's like, "Yeah, we don't have it anymore." And I'm like, "Anymore or like for now?" He's like, "Oh, for now." Oh, okay.
All right, that's not terrible.
So I'm like immediate future, like weeks, months. Yeah, well, I don't know yet. Okay, so that's probably a pass then. So I might have to go shopping a little bit more in the next couple of weeks, but that's okay because the weather here is starting to warm up a little bit, so that's good. It's nice day drinking weather, nice music weather, nice get outside weather. And for you, I know you're a golfer, so that's good. Get the sticks out and have fun weather. So it's getting to be the nice time of year, man. Nice time of year.
Yeah, in Arizona that happens for about 2 months, and then it's 9,000 freaking degrees. So gotta live it up while you can. So yeah. So
for
all
sure.
right. So let's get into last week we did the NFL and the MLB because they're not playing right now.
For sure.
We said let's get in early. Let's get in before all is said and done with. I mean, their drafts, they're this, they're that. And then before the odds change, get it now while the odds are really good. So we did that. Now this week we're going to talk about the other 2 major sports that are in season right now and playing. And we're going to start with the NHL. And there's this year's been the hardest year to bet NHL that I've ever seen in my life. And NHL traditionally is a hard sport to bet on, just because what's hard is usually in a normal year, especially this time of year, halfway through ish, you start knowing who's going to win and who's not going to win, and money lines become so big that you have to bet the spread. Like it's just, I mean, you're betting. And you guys have seen me bet at, hey, here's $20 to win $1. Like I've done that, and I'll do that over and over and over again. But when you're doing that day after day after day, it's like sometimes you want something a little different to give you a little bit of bang for your buck. So you usually try to take the 1.5. Now 1.5, I can't remember really a time when I have seen a spread that wasn't 1.5 in hockey. Off the top of my head, it's always 1.5 is the spread. So then it becomes tricky because then it's an empty net goal at the end, and you're screwed out of your money, or whatever. So it is tough, and it's even tougher this year when teams are playing other teams like 9 times in a row. That doesn't happen in a normal year, and COVID this and COVID that, and so it is hard. But we are going to give our kind of futures a little bit. I'm going to start off, and once again, I told you I do have a Stanley Cup pick, but I am going to start with just a division pick. In with the divisions being what they are. I could look through here and kind of go, okay, I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win. But I could easily see somebody else in their division winning.
Mm-hmm.
But when I look at the Avalanche, I don't think anybody's touching them. I really don't. And I'm getting plus 150. So for $5, I'm going to get 7. And right now they're in 4th place in the division, but they're coming up. They got Vegas, they got Minnesota, they got St. Louis in front of them. But Minnesota, Vegas, St. Louis, they kind of came out with a bang, and I don't want to say they're fading, but it's hard to keep that momentum up in a season like this, and I don't think they can. Whereas Colorado now, they're outstanding now. Yeah, they got smoked the other day, but you're not going to win them all, especially in a season like this. And I think they're just the up and comers, and I think they're going to come through and win that division, which is why their odds are so low.
Kaus, I completely agree with you. As somebody who watches a lot of hockey, last year they for me, even though they didn't make it past the second round, they for me were the most impressive team in the bubble. They completely dominated Arizona in the first round. They should have beat Dallas in the second round. Like they should have. Dallas was playing.
I agree with that.
Dallas, I don't know what happened between the end of the regular season and when they got in the bubble, but Dallas was unreal. But Colorado is so fast. They are just incredibly fast. And, I was texting with a few people that I know in a chat tonight, and we were looking at the Colorado lineup, and in the regular rotation of their lineup, they have a number 1 pick, a number 2 pick, a number 4 pick, 2 number 8 picks, and a number 10 pick in their regular rotation. Jesus. And it's unreal. Yeah, they were crap for a while, and they had to be crap to get some of those picks. But I mean, you're talking about 6 top 10 picks in your lineup that who are going to get 20 minutes of ice time a night. That is unbelievable. So there's a reason why they are that good. And yes, I mean, the West Division, the way that a lot of the experts thought it was going to shake down is it's really top heavy with Vegas, Colorado, and St. Louis. It's really bottoms out with LA, Anaheim, and San Jose. And then you got Arizona and Minnesota who are in the middle there. But the difference in abilities between the top 3 and the rest of the other 5 is just it's kind of difficult to fathom that those 3 are that much better than the rest of them. I see St. Louis falling off. I think Vegas is the only team that can give them a run. But I really like Colorado. The only thing I'm concerned about Colorado is their goaltending. Their starting goaltending is really good. Their backup goaltender is not really if you put Vegas and Colorado's goaltending up against each other, Vegas has a lot better goaltending, but Colorado scores. So,
yeah, it's going to be. I agree with you. I think it's going to be Colorado, Vegas going for that division, and Colorado's only 2 points behind right now. They're one win away from being in that. And that's how close those teams are right now. Vegas is leading it with 23 and Colorado's in 4th with 21. Now, granted, the other 2 are tied with 22, but it's just, I think Colorado gets on a come up and goes. What do you got?
I think Colorado is a great pick there. Well, I kind of kept up the theme from last week, right? Last week I took a lot of value picks that weren't necessarily super sexy or super, a bunch of stars on there. But if you remember, I took Toronto in the East in the MLB, and I took San Diego in the West over the Dodgers. I kind of did something similar here. So in the Central, I really like the Carolina Hurricanes. I can get them at plus 185. They're in the same division right now. The divisions it's almost like 4 different leagues right now. But they're in the same division as Florida, Tampa Bay, Chicago, Dallas, Columbus, Nashville, and Detroit. And I think when this all shakes down, I think you're going to see Tampa Bay, Carolina, Florida, and Dallas in the top 4, and you're going to see the other in the bottom 4. But Carolina is very, very intriguing. They're playing exceptionally well. They have a great top 6. Their goaltending is the only thing that's kind of sketchy for me right now. But if I can get them at plus 185 with the Stanley Cup champions in the same division, I'm taking that. The other division, sorry, go ahead, Kaus.
I would agree. I agree with your pick on that. The only what you said in there when you were naming the teams, I agree. The only thing I think Chicago is kind of up in that upper echelon of that division. I don't think they're in the lower part of that. So that's the only part I'm going to disagree with you on. But I don't think I don't mean that as they're going to make a run for the division.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to be maybe second or third. I don't think they're down with the bottom of the Detroits or the Nashvilles. I think I think Chicago's a lot better than that. So, but other than that, the rest of that I do, and that's just for those of you saying I don't like Carolina, but I don't know who else to pick in that. I mean, I do like Tampa. I do like Florida, but I think Chicago has to be in that consideration as well. So that's the only thing I disagree with you on, but I agree with you on the Carolina there.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, I'm getting really good value with it, right? Like, ultimately, do I think they can do it? Yes, I think it's going to be them in Tampa. But if I can get plus 185 with Carolina and even money with Tampa, I'm going to try Carolina and see how it goes.
I agree. I agree.
In the East, I like Philadelphia as an up-and-comer. I can get them at plus 550 right now. So if I put $10 on, I'm going to win 55. Boston, Washington are the class of that division. Boston's kind of recently been trending down, which I don't really like.
And they got smoked tonight.
Yes, twice in a row.
Yeah.
The thing with Philadelphia is that team has been built over the period of 4 or 5 years. Ron Hextall, when he was the GM, put them together. Then they ran him out of town because he didn't want to bring up the kids early. He's like, they're not ready. They're not ready. They run them out on a rail. Kids come up, they're ready. They're very, very good. Carter Hart is way better than I imagined in goal. And the thing about Philadelphia right now is they're in 4th place. They've missed a lot of games because of COVID. They have games in hand. They could easily be in the front of the division. And I mean, they were very impressive. They were very impressive with the playoff run last year. So I really like the chances this year.
Well, and I agree. I agree with you on Boston. I think they're downward trending. Oh, I just over poured.
No
bueno, party foul. Sorry. I think Boston is definitely they start out hot. They're not going to make it, although I think some people think they're going to win the Stanley Cup. Washington, man, I don't know what to think about Washington anymore. I thought at the beginning they were good, and then as I watch them, I go, they're not good enough, and now they're kind of trending back to being good.
You know who a good comparable is for the Washington Capitals. I think that a lot of people would understand is I think they're like the Green Bay Packers. They have a title. They play well, and then they get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, right?
Yep.
And then they go up and they get to the second round, and then they're just dreck, right? And they have the superstars like Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers, Caps have Alex Ovechkin. I think that's a really good comparable for those of you who don't follow hockey, who are looking at teams. That I think that's a really good measuring stick right there.
Well, but past them, I think the Islanders are performing above their ability right now.
I completely agree.
I don't think they can sustain that. But then you look at Pittsburgh, the Rangers, the Devils, and unfortunately my Sabres are all terrible in that division. So if nothing else, it's Philly's the only one that can stand out there other than maybe Washington. They're the only other ones that are going to stand out there. So I love that bet at plus 550. That's a freaking lootly. Like,
yeah,
I don't, I mean, unless Boston somehow figures it out again and gets back on their game, but I don't see that happening. I think you're right at Philly, and I think that's a great pick.
And once again, I'm kind of attacking this a different way. I'm looking for value. I'm looking for something that's going to keep me interested with my $10 or $12 or $15 or whatever. And you know what? If Philly goes on its, and remember these they're playing each other 7, 8, 9 times. Mm-hmm. If Philly can pick up 4 or 5 wins against Boston, that's really good for them to make a run in this division.
Well, and that's a good point too. When they're playing each other 5, 6, 7 times, it's hard to beat a team. You know, I used to coach softball, and one of our biggest complaints was that we played on Tuesday and Thursday. We played the same team. On Tuesday, we played home, and then Thursday, we played there, vice versa. And it was hard to beat them twice in a row because you walk into that second game going, oh, I already beat these guys. And granted, it's high school. I get the differences, but it's still – you're still a human being, and you're still playing them 9, 10 times. You're getting tired of seeing the same people. You're getting even more pissed off at the people and maybe losing your game a little bit, focusing on being mad. You're getting tired of seeing the same people. You beat them 2 or 3 times. And it's like, all right, come on, we proved ourselves. And so it is really hard to bet, and that does make these teams like the Flyers, who haven't had a ton of COVID games. They have had some, but not a ton. You know, like the Sabres had 3 weeks off. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so they got to make up a lot where that's going to be harder for them to win more games when they're playing all that to make it up compared to a team like Philly. So that does take into consideration. But I like your pick at Philly there. I really do.
Well, tell me who you like to raise a cup.
So I'm sticking with the Avs. I think the Avalanche are plus 750. So my $5 will win me $37. I said it before, and I said it, I don't think anybody. I mean, when right now, if you say who's going to go, who has a chance to contend, we've mentioned a couple of them. The only other ones we haven't mentioned are the Leafs. I think the Leafs, and I hate saying that as a Sabres fan, but I think the Leafs have a really good shot. And I really do think the Panthers might be in the mix, but that's a long shot. But, I mean, we already mentioned Tampa Bay. We mentioned Carolina. We mentioned Washington. We mentioned – I think Philly wins that division. I don't think they make it to the Cup. We mentioned Vegas and the Avs, and I really think those are the teams that have the shot at the Cup. So I'm going to stick with Colorado at 5 for $37.
You know what? I think that our 2 picks that we picked for the Cup, I think they are. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they are playing each other in the final. I
wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't. I think Colorado is just. I would go out even say this, and I would say that if Colorado doesn't win at least 2 cups in the next 7 years, that something went horribly wrong with this, because that team is stacked.
Yeah.
And if that team can't put it together, I look at last year when they lost to Dallas, I'm like, yeah, well, okay, so they're, special circumstances or whatever, but that team needs to win. They need to win now.
I agree. Who you got winning the Cup?
Well, I've got Tampa Bay, the defending champions. I'm getting them at plus 800, and they're kind of middling around right now. And for a team that's 13-5, to say that they're middling around is, they're not super impressive. They're just getting the job done. They do have a plus 25 goal differential, which leads the league. And they don't even have their best offensive player playing at all.
Yeah.
He's going to be back for the playoffs. I think last year, so 2 seasons ago, they got embarrassed in the first round. They got swept. Mm-hmm. Last year, anything less than a championship was a disappointment. They won the championship. I'm like, you know what? If they're going to get their best player back and you're going to give me plus 800, I'm going to go to the window. So that's what I'm going with.
I agree with you there. And I like that pick. Who knows in the playoffs? We all know playoff hockey gives us – it's the best time ever in any sports. And there's people like – I'm in Phoenix where people don't – it's not a hockey town, even though they're trying to say it is. It's not. But I'll be on campus and people are like, man, I don't follow hockey, but playoffs are freaking amazing. And they are. And anything can happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay is playing Colorado. I just don't I agree they're going to get it back, but I think Colorado's got it better. But at that value plus 800, shit. Why?
I mean,
not?
yeah, exactly. Like it's not the best like comparison, but if you were going to get Tom Brady at plus 800 to win the title, would you not take it? I would take a heartbeat.
Correct.
And that's the way that I look at this pick.
And that's something else I was going to say. Can you imagine being a Tampa Bay fan, like living in Tampa your whole life, growing up, and you love Tampa, you love everything Tampa. So you got a cup last year, you got a Lombardi Trophy this year, you almost won the series. So like, I mean, you're like, oh man, you are on top of the world right now.
Yes. I mean, the only thing that you're missing is basketball, but luckily my Toronto Raptors are playing in Tampa this season, so maybe something will happen.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, can you imagine being a business owner in Tampa? You know, and I understand it's COVID, but you got to go shit. I don't know what the stadiums like are in Tampa. I don't know how they're situated, but if it's like here in Phoenix, where the stadiums other than State Farm is a ways away, but the hockey, the State Farm and hockey are together, and then basketball is kind of down the road a little ways. And baseball, those two are the same, and those two are the same. So if you have a business by either one of those, and you're in Tampa and you have 2 or 3 of those stadiums together and you're winning, man, your business, when we come back from COVID, you got a team that won the Cup, you got a team that won Lombardi, you got a team that almost won the series, man, your business is going to be on fire. So, I mean, good for them. I'm happy for them, other than it was Brady, but it's good for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and same for, I live outside of Los Angeles, and they won the NBA title and the World Series. They had a team in the playoffs in the NFL. They won 2 Stanley Cups in the last 8 years. So, I mean, it's very simple. But yeah, you're right. It's like that's good for business. That's really good for business, no matter where you are.
I agree. All right, let's switch roles here a little bit. Let's go the other sport in there.
Let's do it.
Let's drop some bombs on them. All right. Now we're going to go to the NBA. We are going to talk division winners again. And once again, I'll reiterate it. We are talking division winners because it's easier to pick a division than it is to pick the final winner or anything else. So why not try to let our money make money the easiest way we can? Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
it's easier to pick 1 out of 5 than it is 1 out of 15. It's basic math, man. It's basic math.
Correct. In my first one is going to be no shock to anybody. I don't know why you wouldn't make this pick, but I'm taking Brooklyn minus 139, 5 to win 3. Sorry, I'm not winning, but I mean, they're behind the Sixers, and I don't think the Sixers are going to keep it up. Toronto, Knicks, and Celtics are not that good. Like, Brooklyn's going to make a run for it, and they're going to. I mean, the only one they got to worry about is the Sixers, and they're going to fall off. So I think this is easy money.
I think so too. They got their version of the big 3 going, even though the third can't seem to keep healthy enough to get on the court, but they seem to be doing fine without him. So, adding Kevin Durant later on is going to be like adding him at the trade deadline. So great pick. I completely agree with this pick.
I agree. And then then I got Utah. Okay. I love the way the Jazz are playing. The only sort of worry I have is Portland, because I am actually liking the way Portland's looking right now, but they're 7 games back. That's a lot to make up at this point in time. So I don't know that they can come back to it. I think Utah's going to keep it up. I think they're going to be looking pretty close to making a run. So I like Utah at minus 490. They're 10 to win 2. And so obviously Vegas thinks the same way as I do. So, but I don't think, I mean, when you look at the rest of the division, Denver, OKC, Minnesota, they're not coming back on that. Even though Denver is only 8.5 out, I don't think Denver, is there yet.
Something's wrong with Denver. I can't figure it out, man. Something's wrong with them. I don't know if it's just fatigue from last year making the West Final, but something's wrong with them. They're not playing the way that they should be playing.
Yeah, I haven't figured it out. They're actually, they remind me of my next pick. They're almost the same situation where I can't figure them out. My next pick is Phoenix, and yes, that's a homer pick, and I'm not going to deny that. But there's a lot of reasons I picked Phoenix. First and foremost, they're plus 3,600 to win the division. That's $5 to win 180. If nothing else, it's a value bet. If nothing else, but I'm really actually making it to the fact that they're only game and a half out.
Cows are tied in the loss column.
What's that?
They're tied in the loss column. That's huge.
Yeah, correct. In you got the Clippers and Lakers in front of you. Mm-hmm. I think the Lakers they're good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're not good. I just don't think LeBron's being too political right now. I don't know what's going on, but something's going on with them where they're not being as dominant as they should be. The Clippers are definitely dominating right now, and they're a scary team. But if Phoenix can keep it up, I'll tell you how Phoenix does this. They do it by figuring out how to beat teams that are less than 500. If they can do that, they win this division. And for some reason, they can't freaking do it, and it pisses me off every time when they lose to a sub-500 team, although tonight they didn't. But I think that's a great bet, homer or not.
I think it's a wonderful bet. I think it's something that, I mean, especially right now, you made a great point. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Get a few against the teams that you're not supposed to beat, like the Utahs and the Lakers and the Clippers and the Brooklyns or whomever. Get a couple of those, and you're probably going to be okay. I mean, and the other thing that we have to remember is, the Suns have played 32 games. The season's only 72 games this year. So there's 40 games left. The trade deadline's coming up in 3 weeks. Phoenix should be a buyer, not a seller this time, which would be fantastic. And they're tied.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And they're tied in the loss column, man. They're tied in the loss column. So any games that they win.
Here's why they're tied in the loss column. They're tied in the loss column because they play defense now. Mm-hmm. When you look at how they do against the spread over and under, they're 50%. They're 50%. And that's not because of how much they score or don't score. It's how much they let the opposing team score. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they're defensive in basketball. And I don't care what you say, today's NBA, whatever, defense is still going to win you games. It still is. And they're proving that right now. It's not the old Suns of let's just run down the floor and score more than you, which I did enjoy, and I think everybody enjoyed, and they had a good run with that, and they got a lot of wins. But it's just they're figuring out that they can win by defense, and I think that is going to get them the division win.
Well, I mean, you look at them tonight, man. Tonight might not be the best example. They got out rebounded by Chicago. They held them to 49%, but they only shot 50%. They held Chicago to 40% behind the arc, but you're right. The Suns are playing defense, which is outstanding. Of course, it would have been helpful if they had played defense a couple of weeks ago against Brooklyn when I bet on them. Jimmy. Yeah. Christmas.
Well, I also thought they would have came out fired up because Booker didn't get voted in, although now he's another alternate or whatever because somebody else is hurt, which is whatever. I thought they were going to come out fired up and beat the shit out of Charlotte, and they didn't.
Hold on, I'm getting a text. I've been named an NBA All-Star reserve. They ran out of players.
All right, who you got in the NBA divisions?
I've got a couple of picks. I didn't go too crazy. Once again, I went value again, man. I took the Clippers, even though it's minus money, minus 105. My 10's going to win me 9. But what I don't like about the Lakers right now is the Anthony Davis injury. I don't really like that. And in a division where you have two teams as close as the Lakers and the Clippers, 3 weeks can win or lose the division for you. I think this is going to win the division for the Clippers. So I've got them, and then I've got San Antonio in the Southwest at plus 220, which is phenomenal considering that as I look today, San Antonio is winning the division.
Yeah.
It's the thing you get with San Antonio is you get a team that you know is going to be very well coached, very fundamental. They're not going to pull any of that nonsense that the Nuggets pulled last night. They are going to play great team basketball. And that's what you're seeing right now out of the Spurs. My only concern with the Spurs is if the Pelicans get hot. That is my only concern. But at plus 220, if on February 26th, you're going to give me plus 220 with the team leading the division right now, I'm going to take that.
I agree. I actually like Memphis in that division a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I still think the Spurs win it, but I actually think that the Memphis is more of a threat. And you're right, if the Pelicans get hot, they can be a threat. But I think Memphis might be your problem there. But I like that pick. And it all boils down to what's weird, once again, it being a shortened season. They're not seeing each other as much as they should be. So like when you're talking about your Clippers pick there, which goes against my son's pick, you said, it's the Lakers and the Clippers. You might be right, and here's why. Because they don't get a shot to knock each other off as much. I think they only play each other like two more times each team or something like that. So they've got to rely. They can't rely on themselves to, and that goes across the divisions. We're just talking Clippers there, but they're not playing inside the division a ton, and they're not getting to knock each other off and gain, in essence, 2 games in one game by playing them, because they're getting a win and the other team's getting a loss. So it's almost like 2 every time they play. You don't have that as much now. So whoever has the lead now is, has a big one. Like, when I look through the rest of the division, when you talk about the Clippers, you got the Lakers at 1 game back and the Suns at 1.5 games back, and then it's 5 games. When you look at your Spurs, they're 2.5 games ahead of Memphis and Dallas, and they're only 4 against Pelicans. So, that stuff that's harder to make up that ground when you don't have it. Now, Utah's 7 games up. There's no way. I don't see when they're not playing them, they're not going to catch up. But when you look at the Southeast, when you have Charlotte, Miami tied, you got Atlanta, Washington, Orlando, all within 3 games back, that could be made up. But I think like Milwaukee with over 4 games ahead of the Pacers. Brooklyn and the 76ers, both 5 games or more ahead against Toronto. Like that, those games are hard to make up. I think you're starting to see the division winners or the couple that could win the division right now just because they're not playing each other enough to pound them down.
I think I think that's a completely accurate assessment. And we see that, you see that in the NFL, right? There's 16 games, but you're playing six games within the division. Those are games that, you get a win and you widen that gap, right? If you're on top, and if you're in second or third place, you get that win, you narrow that gap and you're all of a sudden in contention. And it works the same in basketball. And you're right. These teams that usually play each other 5 times a year are only playing them 3 or 4 times because of the schedule. So you're going to see the Clippers have fewer opportunities to relinquish that lead to the Lakers against the Lakers, right? The Lakers aren't going to have as many opportunities to beat the Clippers and take a step up or leapfrog them. I think you're right. I think we're seeing a lot of the divisions kind of shake down the way they're going to shake down. You're seeing that those 2 or 3 teams. The Southeast is kind of a shit show. Orlando is freaking terrible, and they're only 3 games out of it. Like, they couldn't throw the ball in the ocean from the pier the other night. But you're starting, like you said, you're starting to see those teams kind of separate a little bit and get and see who's going to challenge for the division and who's not. And that's where I think you can find your value, though, especially with that Suns pick, man. That's a very valuable pick at plus 3,600. I would take that too.
I agree. And something that, and I don't see you have unless you're going to surprise me with a pick. I did not pick anybody win the finals, and it's just too crazy. Now, if I really am honest and who I think is going to be there, I think Brooklyn, Utah, Clippers, and the Spurs are probably the 4 teams that I think have a shot to be there. But it's just when you look at the odds, yeah, there's some money picks we could make, but to me, it's just way too much up in the air, especially with those teams when they start playing each other in the finals. You know, I mean,
I think
right now they still have the Lakers in the lead for winning the championship, and I don't agree with that at all. And then they go the Nets, they go the Clippers, and then they go the Bucks, and they go the Jazz. So maybe I would go Jazz just because they're plus 850, but that would be a value bet, and that's all it would be. It's just, you know, at least when I took the Avs for NHL to win the cup, like I feel like they're good enough to win it. And I'm not saying I don't think that – I'm not saying that I don't think Utah can't win it. I'm not saying I don't think Brooklyn can't win it. I'm saying they all could. It's just too hard to pick, like, anybody. Like, I think it's going to be Tampa Bay, Colorado in the finals. I think Colorado comes on top. I could be wrong, but, you know, it's not like NFL where you can have a good feel like, you know, I bet on Cincinnati to win just because for the hell of it to win the division. There's no way in hell I think they're winning the Super Bowl. You know, and I can go through a couple teams here and go, there's no way in hell they're going to be there and take, you know, I could take the Washington Wizards.
The team I've been riding lately for sure.
Yeah, at plus 50,000. Is a value bet and just throw some money in there. Go, what the hell? It's 500 to 1. So fuck, I'll throw $5 on there and win 20. But I just don't think it can happen.
I think in the NBA though, I think in the odds, it's very evident in the odds that I think it was 2 years ago. Before the season started, I told my buddy Eric, I said, here's the 4 teams that are going to finish in the Final Four. It's Golden State, it's Houston, it's the Raptors, and it's the Bucks. And I was right. And that was before the season even started. And that's ridiculous that you have a league that you can actually do that. And right now, I mean, I think it's the same thing. And I think you're seeing that in the odds. I think there's only 6 teams that can win the championship right now. I think it's the Lakers, the Clippers, the Jazz, the Nets, maybe the Bucks, maybe. And I think that's it. I don't think anybody else is worth a damn.
Well, so according to Vegas, you're right.
And so you're getting these value picks, right? Like the Spurs are winning their division right now, and I'm looking right now, and I can bet them to win the title at plus 15,000. They have zero chance. Let's just call it this. They have zero chance. They might win the division, and they will maybe win a first-round playoff series, and that's about it. But I think that's a problem with the league. I think the odds show that. The Celtics, I'm really disappointed in the Celtics play. I'm really disappointed with the Nuggets. But, you know, the Lakers are plus 250. I don't think the Lakers are that good. I think they got lucky last year.
I agree.
You know, so, I mean.
I agree. But here's my point is I agree with you, and I'm not arguing with you that I think you can easily say who's not going to win it. But I think it's just as hard to say who is going to win it out of those because, like you said, we both think the Lakers are overrated. We don't think they're going to win there. We could see the Clippers there. We could see the Jazz there. We could maybe see the Bucks there. We could see the Nets. And like, right now, you tell me who you think is going to win?
Right now, who I think is going to win?
Yes.
If you put a gun to my head right now, I would bet the Utah Jazz.
But see, that's the thing. Like, that's why I'm not betting the championship in NBA. It's just too hard. That's why I'm sticking with division. It's easier to pick the winner out of those 5. And that's why we didn't make a bet at it. It's too hard. Well, we can narrow it down and say these are who are going to be in the playoffs. Like, I can almost guarantee that. You can't pick a winner. It's so hard to pick the winner right now, especially the way COVID is and the way they're playing teams that aren't in their division. They're playing it's so so hokey.
It's super hard. This is like one of those weird ass seasons, and I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if I just said that I picked the Jazz today to win the title. Tomorrow something might happen. I'd be like, I'm gonna pick the Nets, and then the next day I'd be like, I'm gonna probably take the Lakers. I don't know. So, like you said, it's super hard right now, right? To pick who you think is going to win the whole thing. The idea behind picking the division is a brilliant idea because you're picking out of 5 teams and you're picking the team that's basically just going to win the most games. There's no playoff series involved or anything like that. It's just, hey, out of these 5 teams, who's going to win the most games? I like Brooklyn or I like the Jazz. And that's a great strategy.
Well, especially taking them now too, when, like I said, there's so many games that they have to make up and it's going to be hard to make up. Like, I love that. So, that's all our future picks. Next week, we are going to talk about kind of our trending picks. So you guys know we do this every weekend. It comes out over the weekend, and we do it once a week. So we're going to talk about trending picks, what we see coming up in the week. Keep in mind that they don't have the odds out for the whole week for the NHL and the NBA each week, but we are going to have the tournament to talk about. That's coming up. So we're going to talk about the tournament. We're going to talk about kind of trends and things we're seeing. So more, once again, this is another week where we're talking about our money being tied up for a while. And now we're talking about the teams that are in season, so it's not as long as the NFL or NBA, but it is tied up for a little bit. So next week we are going to talk more about the tournament. We're going to talk about who we like that week going forward, and overs and unders and all that stuff. So make sure you tune in next week. We hope you enjoyed this week. Okay, I hope you had a great time. I hope you guys win some money. I hope you take down Vegas or Puerto Rico or wherever you get your money from. And do your bets offshore, whatever, wherever. I'm not judging. But if you guys ever need any help or any suggestions or whatever, please contact us. If you have questions, contact us. If you like us, just contact us and tell us, hey, we think you're great, or hey, you guys suck, whatever. Give us feedback. I'm in on all of it. I just love that you guys are listening. And I hope you do subscribe and like and retweet and all that stuff. So please do that.
Yeah, this is the kind of a weird time of year with the futures and making our bets and looking way deep in the future. But we do have some things coming up very soon, and I have a lot of interesting things to say next week about trends. I've been riding some trends lately, some of them good, some of them bad, but I've been doing some research with it, so I'm gonna have a lot of things to hopefully make you some money. So either take my picks to the window or fade them.
Yeah,
and still go to the window.
Yeah, you take what you think and you do it, but remember, we are purely doing this for entertainment.
That's right.
We do not guarantee anything we predict, so don't hold a gun to our head if we're wrong. But please let us know what you think. We love having conversations. I will talk all day long with anybody about sports. So please do that. And we hope you guys have a great week. Make that money. Have a great week, guys. We'll see you next week. Subscribe, please.
All right. Bye-bye.
Later.